Hi, I'm Brad Schluter. In this video lesson, we'll be taking a look at my article, Stick Twisters, which was originally published in the October 2015 issue of Drum Magazine. In this section, we'll be looking at something called brain training. And by brain training, I'm referring to things you can do when you practice the drums, while you're listening to music, or while you're away from the drums to become a better drummer. Now, I'm not going to cover all this stuff in the article. As a matter of fact, I'm only going to cover one topic of the article section. But I will give you a couple bonuses as well that weren't included in the article. The thing I want to talk about is I'm a drum teacher and I've given thousands of drum lessons to hundreds of drummers. And one thing that has helped all my students who did this thing become better drummers and progress faster than those who didn't do this one thing is counting out loud. Counting out loud is a great way to become a better drummer more quickly. And one of the reasons for that is simply that it helps you identify when things are supposed to happen. A lot of times when we play the drums or learn to play drums or work at patterns, we're very passive. We just kind of look at the notes and try and play it and try and get them to line up without really thinking about what's going on. When you think a little bit more detailed, at least initially, you'll get the patterns down faster, and eventually that will help you hear them correctly and then transfer that to more of a sound pattern that you can just play at will. Most of us, I've seen hundreds of drummers have this one issue where they are very familiar with, say, a certain pattern, like boom, ba, boom, boom, ba, boom, ba, boom, boom, ba. And then they have to learn a similar pattern, boom, ba, boom, boom, ba, boom, ba, boom, boom, ba, which isn't so familiar to them. Guess what happens? 3, 4, 5 times they start playing the beat correctly. If they're not counting, the pattern that they're more familiar with is the dominant one, and the one they're trying to do that's less familiar kind of morphs into it. And before you know it, they're playing the more familiar pattern, and they don't even realize this has happened. Drummers who do count will recognize that there's something gone wrong right away, and they usually stop, figure it out, and then they can address that issue. Another thing about this too is just, associating counts and events and measures can be really, really useful. But it can also be useful when you're not trying to play written music, or you're not trying to work on something like that, and you're just trying to learn how to play a new rhythm. Now, one of the other videos I talk about learning to play odd groupings of notes like 5s and 7s, quintuplets, septuplets, things like that. And one of the things I talk about is simply playing hand-to-hand notes and counting along with that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Now, another thing you can do is accent the ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Using that sort of technique can really help you feel the pattern sooner and understand how those patterns are grouped. And then later, when you try and play them with a metronome, hopefully you'll be able to get those accents to line up with the clicks. Let's say you want to learn how to play a polyrhythm, like 4 against 5. Well, the first thing we're going to do is multiply 4 and 5 together, and we'll get 20. And the 20 represents the number of underlying pulses that we have to sort of account for. And so the way we'll do this, we'll think of this as being in 5, 4, and 16th notes. That's how we're going to count it. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 5 E and a. Now, if you're not used to counting in odd meters, just practice doing that for a while. That'll help you get used to counting in 5. The next step is to count to accent our counting on every 5th count of that, which will be the 1, the E of 2, the and of 3, and the of 4. So counting in 5, 4 with those accents would sound like this. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 5 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 5 E and a, 1. Now, as I was doing that, I was tapping my foot on the ones. That would be the next step. Now, initially I just suggested just counting it, but if you want to hear how those relate together, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 5 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 5 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 5 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 5 E and a. So you get the idea. You can obviously start doing things like this with the counting, doing it by playing, splitting up between different limbs. You could flip your hand so it's the other way around, where it's, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 5 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 5 E and a, 1. I need to practice my left hand finger snapping because I'm not quite as loud that way. But the idea here is just to get used to how those things sound, and counting is a great way to start. If you want to learn how to play 3 against 5 or 5 against 3, similarly you multiply these two numbers together, you get 15 pulses. You can divide that into either 3 groups of 5 or 5 groups of 3. And I actually cover that in one of the other video lessons. But the idea here is you can do a lot of these things simply by counting. So one of the things you can do to become a better drummer more quickly is to sort of ensure your success. When you try something new, there are a bunch of ways you can do this, but one of the most important, as I mentioned, was counting. Another one is simply to slow down. Now, when you're trying something new, what happens, a lot of times we approach things very passively. We just kind of look at them and try and play them, or we just try and get this thing in our head and try and just wing it. And the problem with that is a lot of the time, it's just simply too hard to do that. You might have it in your head, but you've got to train your body to be able to do that. And by slowing down, your brain can tell your limbs what to do more clearly. When you're going too fast, it's almost like trying to play, throw a dart at a moving target or something. You really have such a small window or chance of getting it right. It's almost like we want to play things as fast as we might possibly be able to do them the first time we attempt them. But what normally happens, it's almost like you're dancing at the edge of a cliff. Most of the time you're going to sort of fall in. What you want to do is stay away from that precipice and give yourself every opportunity to succeed. So simply slowing down a lot when you work on things to make them clear can make you better at these things much more quickly. It also helps you hear them correctly, and that helps transfer ideas from an analytical part of your brain to more just hearing the sound pattern or just understanding it or feeling the pattern. So these are a couple little tips that may help you hopefully become a better drummer while you're at the drums or away from the drums. There are a bunch more in the section on this topic in the article. I appreciate you watching the video, and I hope you found this interesting and helpful. Thanks.